echoes of the divine, sacred reflections. In the silent corridors of existence, where time bends and reality fades, the soul embarks on a journey, one that transcends the fleeting moments of life and death. Beneath the surface of all that we see and know lies an ancient truth, hidden within sacred texts and whispered through forgotten incantations. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. These words from the ancient scriptures speak not merely of life after death, but of a deeper quest to unveil the divine that sleeps within the shadows of the soul. With a voice soft yet resonant, they continue, as it is written in the scriptures, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul?" Mark 8 verse 36. Our souls are treasures, woven into the fabric of the cosmos, echoing the heartbeat of creation. And the spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. Proverbs 20 verse 27. In the spaces between the seen and the unseen, where angels fear to tread and demons linger in temptation, lies the threshold of ultimate understanding. Here, fragments of forgotten spells echo, their meanings lost to the ages. Tyrannus volo. Sanguisiti ignis. Incomprehensible words, yet they hold the key to unlocking the eternal dance of duality. The seeker's heart whispers in this sacred silence, where magic once known to sages intertwines with the weight of cosmic law. Like the golden flames upon the altar of an ancient temple, the soul seeks liberation. But before truth is revealed, the veil must be lifted and the shadows confronted, for they are but reflections of the light we fear to embrace. Will you step through the veil or turn away, fearing the mystery that awaits? The Awakening. Laila, an 18-year-old with a spirit as wild as the wind, often felt a profound tugging at her heart, a whisper that life held secrets, hidden truths waiting to be unveiled. By day, she walked the bustling halls of her high school, her laughter a fleeting echo amid the chatter of her peers. Yet, despite the facade of confidence, she wore a mask of isolation. Harassed by friends who took pleasure in her quirks, they branded her as different, casting her into a lonely abyss. Each taunt pierced her heart, leaving her to grapple with the heavy weight of solitude. Though academically brilliant, excelling in her studies with grace and determination, Laila faltered in social interactions where the ebb and flow of connections felt as elusive as smoke. Her sanctuary lay in the embrace of old books, their yellowed pages a refuge where she found kinship with the voices of long-gone sages and poets. One fateful evening, while exploring the dusty shelves of her favorite antiquarian bookshop, she uncovered a tattered Sufi manuscript, its cover embossed with intricate designs that seemed to shimmer under her touch. Within its pages, she discovered the ancient art of astral projection, a path to separating the soul from the body through incantations and rituals echoing with the weight of ages. The soul must first be purified, the text instructed, its language an enchanting tapestry woven with incomprehensible incantations. Yukab al-Hakika, unveil the hidden path. Yeru al-Kalk, elevate the spirit beyond the corporeal veil. Each phrase resonated within her, sending shivers down her spine, igniting a flicker of hope deep in her heart. As Laila delved deeper, she learned of the stages of this mystical journey. First, she needed to enter a state of profound relaxation, a meditative trance where the physical realm began to fade away. Close your eyes and breathe, feel the heaviness in your limbs dissolve, she recited softly, echoing the words of the manuscript. Next, she would visualize her spirit rising. My soul ascends, unshackled by the weight of flesh. Before the final incantation, a powerful invocation meant to sever the ties that bound her to the earthly realm. Each night, Laila faced her reflection in the mirror, a habit that had become both ritual and refuge. "Who am I, truly?" she murmured, staring deeply into her own eyes, searching for answers amidst the chaos. "Is my essence woven from the threads of loneliness? Or am I more than the sum of their cruel judgments?" A sinister voice curled around her thoughts, seductive yet malevolent. "You are but a shadow, Laila, a flicker in a darkened world, unworthy of connection. Why struggle against the inevitable?" "No," she retorted defiantly, her heart pounding as if in rebellion. "I am a soul seeking its truth, a being yearning to understand existence beyond the superficial." In the depths of her own mind, she recalled the words of the Sufi mystics: "The soul is an eternal flame, flickering yet undying, illuminating the path toward true essence." "Ah, but what is truth in a world built on deception?" the voice sneered, coiling tighter. "You wish to escape, yet you are shackled by your own insecurities." "Perhaps," she conceded, a flicker of doubt passing through her. "But maybe there is liberation in seeking the unknown. Maybe there is power in transcending this physical realm." As she contemplated this, Laila felt the thrill of the unknown beckoning her. The idea of leaving her earthly body behind to explore the infinite dimensions of existence resonated within her like a distant bell calling her home. "What if," she mused, her heart fluttering with excitement, "I could break free from this prison of isolation? What if I could discover realms where my soul is celebrated?" Days turned into weeks as she devoted herself to meditation, each session a delicate dance with her inner self. At first, her efforts bore little fruit, and doubt gnawed at her resolve. Yet, one magical night, beneath the luminous gaze of the moon, something extraordinary happened. As she sank deeper into meditation, Laila felt a tingling sensation envelop her, a gentle lifting of her consciousness. Her body transformed, becoming light as a feather. "I am free," she gasped, exhilaration coursing through her veins. The familiar sounds of her room faded away, replaced by a symphony of silence. She floated past her bedroom, the earth below falling away, until she found herself enveloped by a starlit expanse. In that breathtaking moment, Laila realized this was merely the prologue to her grand adventure, the beginning of a journey that would lead her to the very essence of her being. A journey where the shackles of her loneliness would dissolve and the mysteries of the universe would unfold before her. The mirror realm. As Laila entered her sanctuary of reflection, the world around her faded, and she stood before the mirror, a portal to the depths of her soul. In the dim light of her room, she felt an electric charge in the air, as if the very fabric of reality trembled with anticipation. She gazed at her reflection, her heart racing, and in that moment, the boundary between her inner and outer selves began to dissolve. "Who are you?" she whispered to her reflection, her voice barely a breath against the stillness. The mirror shimmered, and in response, her reflection transformed, taking on an ethereal quality, a duality that shimmered with both light and shadow. "I am the essence of your being," her reflection replied, the voice echoing like a distant melody. "I am the truth that lies beneath your fears, the love that seeks to embrace you. Will you listen, or will you turn away?" Turn away? Laila echoed, her brow furrowing. Isn't that what I've always done? Isn't that why I feel so alone? In that moment, a shadow flickered across the glass, and another voice emerged, chilling and serpentine, wrapping around her thoughts like a dark vine. You dare question your existence, little soul? It hissed, the air growing thick with an unsettling presence. You are nothing but a wisp in the winds of fate, unworthy of your desires. Unworthy? Laila felt anger swell within her, a flame igniting her spirit. No! I am a being of light. I am more than the whispers of doubt that haunt me. The angelic voice of her reflection chimed in, warm and inviting. You must embrace your light, Laila. You are a soul meant to shine, not cower in the shadows. Remember the words, for I know the plans I have for you. It recited, its tone imbued with wisdom. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Will you step into the light? But the demonic voice curled around her, dark and enticing. Hope? Future? Such illusions are the chains that bind you. You think you are free, yet you are shackled by your own desires. Listen to the incantations of your fears, asterisk tyrannus, volo. Sanguisiti ignis, asterisk it chanted, the words curling like smoke in the air, wrapping around her like a serpent. Laila felt the pull of both voices, one urging her toward the light, the other tempting her into the abyss. I'm not afraid of you, she declared, her voice rising above the cacophony. I will not allow your darkness to consume me. I seek the truth, the love I crave, the connection that transcends this loneliness. Do you truly believe love awaits you? The demonic whisper mocked, a chilling laughter echoing around her. What you seek is a mirage, a fleeting shadow in a desert of despair. You cannot escape the fate that is woven into your very essence. In response, her reflection glowed brighter, radiating warmth. You must choose, Laila. Embrace the journey. The path is narrow, but the light is near, the mystics have said. Will you take that first step? Just as Laila reached out, captivated by the brightness, the mirror shimmered with an enchanting glow. Another vision swirled before her. A stunning reflection revealed a version of herself entwined with a mysterious figure cloaked in mist, their aura radiating warmth and familiarity. Could this be the love I crave? She wondered, heart pounding with yearning. But before she could reach out to uncover the truth, a voice pierced the stillness. Laila. It was her mother's voice, calling her back from the depths of her reverie, pulling her from the enchanting realm. Dinner is ready. The vision faded, the mirror returning to its ordinary surface. Laila felt a mixture of longing and confusion wash over her. Who was the cloaked figure? What secrets lay behind the shimmering glass? As she stared into the mirror once more, she pondered the identities behind the reflections and the profound truths waiting to be unveiled. The journey had just begun, and with it, the whispers of angels and demons lingered in the air, guiding her deeper into the mysteries of her own heart and soul. Guardians and secrets. Driven by the haunting echoes of the mirror realm and the enigma that had begun to envelop her soul, Laila returned to the musty corners of the library where she had discovered the ancient Sufi book. Dust motes danced in the air as she navigated the labyrinth of shelves, her heart racing with anticipation. She knew that within those yellowed pages lay the key to unraveling the mysteries that had ensnared her spirit. Finally, she found it, the weathered tome that had called to her so fervently. Opening it, the scent of aged parchment enveloped her like an old friend. She flipped through the pages, searching for the spell she had stumbled upon before, one that whispered of astral separation and the power to transcend reality. There it was, a long and incomprehensible incantation that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Ashkali vie dunyaya shumar hasanakt. Zair Janarakabe Eazara Nazarvad. Sutra Mavari Ilal-Badi Wadhabalumi. Ashabi Jilla Satharas. Laila Lash Shuru. The syllables rolled off her tongue like honey, yet their meaning eluded her grasp. Ashkali vie dunyaya, she whispered, the words resonating within her very being, and she felt an intoxicating surge of power coursing through her. Shumar Hasanakt, Zair, with each repetition, the spell seemed to ignite a flicker of hope within her, a promise of enlightenment lurking just beyond the veil. Laila stood before the mirror, her heart pounding with determination. I must break this curse of loneliness and uncover the truth, she declared, her voice steady and clear. With conviction, she recited the spell 3 times, her voice growing louder with each iteration, the words weaving a tapestry of light and shadow that enveloped the mirror. Suddenly, a radiant figure emerged from the glass, a guardian shimmering like a constellation come to life. His eyes sparkled with the brilliance of galaxies, drawing her into their depths. You seek love, he mused, his voice echoing with the resonance of ancient wisdom. But you have yet to grasp its essence. Understand this truth, and you shall unlock the door to your heart. What do you mean? Laila asked, frustration bubbling within her as she struggled to comprehend his cryptic message. I have faced shadowy creatures and traversed vibrant realms of light. Each journey brings me closer to understanding, yet your words elude me like the wind slipping through my fingers. The guardian regarded her thoughtfully, his expression one of compassion mingled with challenge. Love is not merely a feeling, Laila, it is a state of being. It exists in the fabric of the universe, woven into every fiber of your existence. To seek love is to seek yourself. You must confront the shadows within, for they are the very barriers that keep you from embracing your true self. Laila pondered his words, her mind swirling with contemplation. But how do I confront these shadows? They seem insurmountable, lurking just beyond my reach. In every shadow lies a reflection of your own fear, the guardian explained, his voice like a soothing balm. You must embrace them, understand their origin, and transform them into light. Only then can you see beyond the veil of illusion. But what if I fail? Laila asked, vulnerability creeping into her voice. What if I am not strong enough to face them? The guardian leaned closer, his eyes shimmering with reassurance. Strength does not come from the absence of fear, but from the courage to face it. Remember the words of the Sufis, the soul's journey is a tapestry woven with threads of love, fear, and hope. Embrace each thread, and you shall find your way. Laila felt a warmth envelop her, a sense of belonging igniting within her heart. So, my journey is about understanding myself, she mused aloud, her voice laced with wonder. It's not just about seeking love from others, but about finding it within. Precisely, the guardian affirmed, his gaze unwavering. And with each step toward understanding, you shall unlock the door to your heart, revealing the profound love that has always resided within you. Embrace your essence, for it is the key to your liberation. With the guardian's wisdom echoing in her mind, Laila felt an urgency to venture deeper into the cosmic dimensions. She closed her eyes, visualizing the mirror and its myriad reflections, each one a fragment of her journey. As she opened her eyes, the mirror shimmered with a radiant glow, beckoning her once more. "I must enter," Laila whispered, her heart racing. "I will confront my shadows and transcend this reality." She stepped toward the mirror, feeling its energy pulse like a heartbeat. The air around her crackled with anticipation, and as she crossed the threshold, the world shifted. Colors exploded around her, swirling into a kaleidoscope of emotions. The cosmic dimensions enveloped her, vast and infinite, a landscape where stars danced and galaxies spun like dreams. Before her stood the mirror again, its surface rippling with the essence of countless versions of herself. Laila breathed deeply, remembering the guardian's words. "I embrace my shadows," she declared, feeling the power of the spell coursing through her veins. "I am ready to face whatever lies beyond." As she approached, the guardian reappeared, a luminous figure of light and wisdom. "You have returned," he said, his voice resonating through the dimensions. "Are you prepared to confront the truths that await you?" "Yes," Laila replied, her voice steady. "I seek to understand the depths of my being, to uncover the love that resides within." The guardian smiled, a glimmer of approval in his eyes. "Very well. To enter the depths of the mirror realm is to face not just your shadows, but the light that exists within them. Each fear you confront will reveal a piece of your truth. But be warned, the path is fraught with illusions and temptations that may seek to sway you from your journey." As the guardian spoke, Laila felt the weight of his words settle in her heart. "I am prepared," she asserted, feeling the fire of determination ignite within her. "I will not falter." "Then let us begin," he said, gesturing toward the mirrors. "Step forward, and may your journey illuminate the darkest corners of your soul." With one last glance at the guardian, Laila approached the nearest mirror, its surface shimmering with ethereal light. As she gazed into its depths, she whispered the incantation once more, channeling her energy into the spell. "Ashkali vie dunyaya shimar hasanakt." The mirror rippled, and Laila felt herself being drawn into its depths, ready to uncover the secrets that lay within, knowing that this was but the beginning of her journey, a journey that promised to unravel the threads of love, fear, and hope woven into the very fabric of her existence. The dance of dualities. Laila stepped through the portal and found herself in a realm unlike any she had ever seen. It was neither day nor night, but a twilight that seemed to hold the tension of both light and shadow in perfect harmony. The air vibrated with an ethereal energy, the landscape shifting constantly as if reflecting the uncertainty within her heart. Mountains rose and fell in waves, oceans shimmered into deserts, and the sky flickered between bright blue and starless black. At the center of this ever-changing world stood an ancient figure, draped in robes that seemed to shimmer with the entire spectrum of existence. His face was weathered, his eyes gleaming with the light of millennia. He held a staff that seemed to radiate both warmth and cold at once. "Welcome, Laila," the sage greeted, his voice a deep resonance that echoed through her being. "You have come to face your own nature, to understand the dance of dualities." Laila felt a shiver run down her spine. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling with both fear and awe. "I am but a reflection," the sage answered, his gaze steady. "I am both a teacher and a student, both ancient and newborn, both shadow and light. I am the balance that exists within you and the cosmos." As he spoke, the landscape around them seemed to quiet. Laila could feel her heart pulling in different directions, toward the light where hope and love resided, but also toward the darkness where fear and ignorance lingered. "I don't understand," Laila admitted. "How can both exist within me? How can I be filled with both love and fear, wisdom and ignorance?" The sage smiled knowingly, raising his hand toward the sky. "Do you know the story of Job?" he asked. In his trials, he was torn between faith and despair, between trusting in the divine plan and cursing his existence. Yet in the end, Job found that both his suffering and his hope were paths leading to a deeper understanding of God. The sage paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "You are no different, Laila. Like Job, you are torn between dual forces. You seek light, yet fear the darkness. You search for love, but flee from your own shadows. You must learn, as Job did, that both are part of the same journey." "But how?" Laila asked, frustration creeping into her voice. "How do I embrace both without losing myself?" The sage raised his staff, and the world around them shifted again. Suddenly, a radiant figure of light appeared on one side of Laila, and a shadowy figure on the other. Both seemed to pulse with energy, but they did not touch. The sage gestured to them. "This is your soul, divided. The light seeks wisdom, knowledge, love. The shadow holds your fear, your ignorance, and your pain. You cannot ascend without accepting both." He stepped closer to Laila and recited from the ancient texts, his voice echoing like a prophet of old. "Underscore, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Underscore." John 1 verse 5. "The light can only exist because of the darkness," he continued. "It is not the absence of the shadow that brings enlightenment, but the understanding that both are essential. Even in the beginning, God created light and separated it from the darkness, yet he did not destroy the darkness. He gave each its place." Laila stared at the two figures, feeling the tension between them. "But the darkness frightens me," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. The sage nodded solemnly. "Fear is natural. Even the prophets felt it. When Moses stood before the burning bush, he was afraid. But God spoke to him from within the flames, showing him that the fire, though fearsome, was a source of revelation, not destruction." The sage's words stirred something deep within Laila. She looked again at the shadowy figure beside her. It seemed to reflect all the doubts and fears she had ever felt. It was terrifying, but also familiar. "Will you reject your own shadow?" the sage asked. "Or will you learn to dance with it?" Laila hesitated, then remembered the words of another prophet, words she had read many times, but only now began to understand. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23 verse 4. The realization hit her like a wave. I must embrace it, don't I? She said, more to herself than to the sage. The sage smiled, his eyes glowing softly. Yes, Laila. To deny the shadow is to deny half of yourself. To reject fear is to reject the opportunity for courage. To shun ignorance is to miss the path to wisdom. Love cannot exist without the presence of fear, just as light cannot exist without darkness. He raised his arms, and the figures of light and shadow began to move in a graceful dance, circling around Laila, drawing closer and closer until they merged together, becoming one radiant form. The sage's voice grew deeper, more resonant as he spoke the wisdom of the ages. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. Ecclesiastes 3 verses 1 to 4. This is the dance of dualities, Laila. You are both the shadow and the light, the fear and the love. They are not separate, but one. Embrace both, and you shall find the harmony you seek. Tears welled up in Laila's eyes as she watched the radiant figure before her. She finally understood that her journey wasn't about overcoming one side of herself, but about embracing both. She wasn't just light, nor was she just shadow. She was the balance between the two. She took a deep breath, her heart swelling with newfound understanding. I accept them, she whispered. I accept both my light and my shadow. The sage lowered his staff and stepped back, his face serene. Then you are ready to continue your journey. The path to self-understanding is long, but you have taken the first step. Remember the words of the prophets, and you will not lose your way. With a final smile, the sage dissolved into the twilight, leaving Laila standing alone, yet not alone. For now, she carried both the light and shadow within her, united in the dance of dualities. And as she gazed at the horizon, she felt a profound peace wash over her, knowing that she had begun to understand the truth of her soul. The river of time. Laila stood on the edge of an infinite river, its waters shimmering with celestial light. The river's current was gentle yet vast, stretching beyond the horizon, touching the farthest reaches of the cosmos. It was unlike any river she had seen on Earth. Each ripple seemed to contain the stars, and with every surge, the past, present, and future wove into one. Laila could feel the pulse of time itself within its flow, fluid, eternal, ever-changing yet timeless. As she gazed upon its mesmerizing surface, a voice, soft yet profound, echoed in the air around her. Welcome to the river of time, Laila. She turned and saw an ethereal figure standing beside her, cloaked in robes that shifted with the colors of dawn and dusk, night and day. The being had an ageless face, neither young nor old, male nor female, but a perfect blend of all that time holds. Its eyes, however, seemed to carry the weight of countless eons, gazing upon Laila with a deep knowing. Who are you? She asked, though in her heart she already knew. I am time, the figure said simply, its voice flowing like the river itself. I am both the keeper and the flow, the beginning and the end, and the space in between. You stand at the threshold of eternity, where past, present, and future are one. Laila felt a shiver run through her body, not out of fear, but from the overwhelming sense of awe that washed over her. I thought time moved only forward, she said. That the past was behind us, and the future was yet to come. The being smiled, a gentle, timeless smile. That is an illusion of your human mind, bound by the limitations of physical existence. In truth, time is a river, cyclical, eternal, ever-flowing. The past is not behind you, nor is the future ahead. They exist simultaneously, woven into the fabric of the present moment. All that has been and all that will be are one, flowing through this river of existence. Laila's heart began to race as the implications of those words sank in. You mean the past and the future, they're both happening now? The being nodded. Indeed. The moment you call now is but a point of consciousness within the eternal stream. Dip your hands into the river, Laila, and you will see. You will feel the truth that transcends time. Laila hesitated for a moment, her mind swirling with questions. But then, with a deep breath, she knelt by the river's edge and slowly submerged her hands into the shimmering waters. The moment her fingers touched the surface, the world around her dissolved. She was no longer standing by the river. Instead, she was everywhere and nowhere, floating within the current of time itself. Visions rushed past her like the currents of the river, and she felt her soul expanding beyond the confines of the present. She saw herself in the distant past, living countless lives in different times, places, and forms. In one vision, she was a farmer tending to the fields under the hot sun. In another, she was a healer, helping the sick in a bustling ancient city. Each life carried its own lessons, its own joys, and its own sufferings. Yet all these experiences seemed to be connected, like threads in a vast tapestry, forming the story of her soul's evolution. You have lived many lives, the being of time spoke gently, its voice resonating within the visions. Each incarnation, each choice, each action creates ripples in the river, shaping both the past and the future. As Laila continued to witness her past lives, she felt a deep sense of recognition. She understood now that her current journey was not isolated, it was part of a much larger cycle of growth and learning. She saw the echoes of karma in her choices, how her actions in past lives had shaped her present experiences, and how her present choices would ripple into future incarnations. Every life is a step on the journey of the soul, the being explained. The lessons you have learned, the love you have shared, the pain you have endured, they are all part of your soul's evolution. Nothing is wasted, and nothing is lost. All is carried forward in the river of time. Laila's heart swelled with a mixture of awe and gratitude. But before she could speak, another wave of visions washed over her, this time of the future. She saw herself in future lives, standing at crossroads of choice, her soul continuing its journey of growth and awakening. In one vision, she was a teacher, guiding others toward the light of wisdom. In another, she was an artist, creating beauty to inspire the world. The possibilities seemed endless, each one a new thread in the tapestry of time. But how can I know which future is mine? Laila asked, her voice trembling with the weight of what she was seeing. The future is not fixed, time responded. It is shaped by your choices in the present. The river flows, but you are the one who steers your course. Each action, each thought, each moment of awareness shapes the path ahead. What you see are possibilities, potential futures born from your choices in this life and beyond. Laila's mind struggled to comprehend the vastness of what she was experiencing. Yet within the flow of the river, she felt a deep peace, a knowing that transcended her confusion. She realized that time was not a straight line, but a dance, a rhythm that her soul moved to with every heartbeat, every breath. You are eternal, Laila, the being of time whispered. Your soul is not bound by the constraints of time. It moves through cycles, learning, growing, evolving. Just as the river flows endlessly, so too does your journey continue, carrying with it the wisdom of all that you have been and all that you will become. Laila withdrew her hands from the river, feeling the weight of eternity still lingering on her fingertips. She looked at the being of time, her heart filled with a deep sense of reverence. So what must I do now? She asked quietly, humbled by the vastness of what she had witnessed. Live, the being answered, its voice like the rustling of leaves in the wind. Live fully in the present, for the present is where all time converges. Each moment is an opportunity to shape your future, to heal your past, and to awaken to the truth of your eternal essence. You are both the river and the one who sails it. Embrace your journey, Laila, for it is timeless. The being of time began to fade, dissolving into the shimmering light of the river. But as it vanished, its final words echoed in Laila's soul. Underscore for 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. Underscore. Psalm 90 verse 4. And so, Laila stood by the celestial river, her heart open to the timelessness of her soul's journey. She had glimpsed the eternal dance of time, the interconnectedness of all moments, and the truth that she was not merely a traveler bound by the limits of time, but a being of eternity, flowing with the river of life. With a newfound sense of peace and purpose, Laila turned away from the river, ready to continue her journey, no longer fearing the passage of time, but embracing it as the sacred rhythm of her soul's evolution. The Temple of Silence. The path that led Laila to the Temple of Silence was unlike any she had walked before. There were no grand markers, no mystical beings to guide her, only a subtle whisper in the wind, a quiet pull within her heart. The further she walked, the deeper the silence became, until even the sound of her own footsteps seemed to dissolve into the stillness that surrounded her. The temple itself was hidden deep within the astral realms, surrounded by an aura of serenity so profound that it felt as if time had ceased to exist. It was not grand or imposing. Its walls were smooth, translucent, and seemed to shimmer in the soft light of the unseen sun. The architecture felt familiar, but she had never seen anything like it before, a reflection of her soul, an expression of simplicity and grace. It was as if the structure had been born from the very essence of silence itself. With hesitant steps, Laila approached the entrance, her heart both drawn to and daunted by the overwhelming quiet. There were no sounds, no rustling of leaves or chirping of birds, just an immense, pervasive silence. As she crossed the threshold into the temple, that silence deepened. She instinctively touched her throat, half expecting to speak, but no words formed. Inside, the emptiness was even more palpable. The vast hall stretched endlessly, yet there were no statues, no inscriptions on the walls, no altars or symbols, nothing to distract the mind or give form to thought. It was pure, unadulterated stillness. Every movement, every thought felt amplified against the backdrop of this emptiness. Laila sat in the center of the temple, legs crossed, her breath steady, and allowed the silence to envelop her. At first, the quiet was unnerving. Her mind raced, desperately seeking sound or form, something to grasp onto. It was as if the quiet magnified everything she had been running from, her insecurities, her doubts, her unspoken fears. They all rose to the surface, swirling within her like a storm that had been long suppressed. But there was nowhere to escape, no noise to drown them out. Laila closed her eyes, struggling to calm her racing mind. The quiet became oppressive, almost unbearable. She felt small, vulnerable, as though the silence itself was stripping her bare, leaving her with nothing but her own thoughts, her own essence. Then, from the depths of the silence, she heard a voice. It was not external, not spoken aloud. It was a voice that resonated from within, a part of her soul that she had long forgotten. Why do you fear silence? The voice asked softly. Laila's eyes remained closed, but she could feel the presence of someone beside her. Not a figure of flesh and bone, but a reflection of herself, a higher, wiser version, bathed in the same serenity as the temple. The presence was her spiritual master, but it was also her own soul, speaking in its purest form. I am not used to it, Laila admitted silently, her heart trembling. I've always looked outside for answers, for guidance, for signs. But here, there is nothing. The voice within her responded with gentle authority. And that is precisely why you are here. True wisdom does not come from the noise of the world, nor from the clamor of the mind. It arises in the space between thoughts, in the stillness of your own heart. You have sought so long outside of yourself for answers, but the greatest truths cannot be found out there. They lie within you, waiting to be uncovered in silence. Laila opened her eyes, and though the temple remained empty, she now felt the presence of her higher self everywhere, woven into the very fabric of the silence. Her breath deepened, and she allowed the silence to wash over her once more, but this time without resistance. As she surrendered to the stillness, something profound began to happen. Her racing thoughts slowed, like a river finding calm after a storm. The fears that had once echoed so loudly within her mind began to dissolve, as if they had no substance in the light of such peace. Slowly, a deep, abiding stillness took root within her. In that stillness, she began to hear something deeper than any external sound, an inner melody, the quiet rhythm of her soul. It was not audible in the usual sense, but she felt it resonating throughout her being. With each breath, she became more attuned to this silent music, and in it, she found answers that no words could convey. You see, the inner voice spoke again, true knowledge does not need to be spoken. It is felt. It arises from within, from the very core of your being. When you quiet the mind, you begin to hear the wisdom of the soul. Laila remembered the words of ancient sages, echoed in her newfound understanding. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46 verse 10. The kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17 verse 21. These verses now held a deeper meaning. They were not mere phrases, but living truths. The stillness she was experiencing was the gateway to the divine, not as something external, but as something that had always been within her. Her heart opened, and in the silence, she found herself in communion with the divine presence that permeated all things. She understood that this stillness, this inner peace, was not an absence of sound, it was the presence of something far greater, the essence of all that is, the voice of creation itself. The temple, she now realized, was a reflection of her own soul, a sanctuary of silence where the mind's chatter could no longer reach. It was a place where the heart could listen, where the soul could speak. And in this stillness, she discovered the greatest truth of all. She was never separate from the divine, never apart from the wisdom she sought. It had always been within her, waiting in the silence. As she rose to leave the temple, the presence of her higher self remained with her, no longer as a separate entity, but as an integrated part of who she truly was. She walked with a newfound calm, her heart full of quiet knowing. The world outside is full of noise. The inner voice whispered. But remember, the deepest truths are born in silence. Whenever you feel lost, return here, not to the temple, but to the silence within your heart. There, you will always find what you seek. With those words echoing in her soul, Laila stepped out of the temple of silence, no longer fearing the quiet, but embracing it as the wellspring of wisdom and peace. She had discovered the power of stillness, the eternal wisdom that arises from silence, and the inner voice that would forever guide her on her journey. And as she continued her path, she carried with her the profound lesson of the temple, that the answers to the mysteries of life are not found in the external world, but in the quiet, sacred space within. The eternal garden. Laila had emerged from the temple of silence with a profound sense of inner peace, but her journey was far from over. As she ventured deeper into the astral realms, the landscape around her transformed once more. This time, she found herself in a lush, vibrant garden, an eternal paradise where time itself seemed to stand still. The air was rich with the fragrance of blooming flowers, and the soft hum of creation whispered through the leaves. In the center of the garden stood a single tree, unlike any she had seen before. Its roots stretched deep into the earth, anchoring it in a timeless embrace, while its branches reached toward the heavens, intertwining with the stars. Each leaf shimmered with an otherworldly light, and as Laila approached, she could feel the weight of eternity in its presence. "This is the tree of life," a voice said from behind her. Laila turned to see a new figure, a woman dressed in flowing robes, her face radiant with wisdom and grace. Her eyes, like those of the guardian and the sage, held the light of millennia, but there was something even more profound in her gaze, something that spoke directly to Laila's soul. "You've journeyed far, Laila," the woman continued, "but now you must learn the final truth that ties everything together. What is this place?" Laila asked, her voice filled with awe. "Why do I feel as though everything, time, existence, love, is connected here?" The woman smiled gently. "This is the eternal garden. It is where all paths lead and where all souls eventually return. Here, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth is laid bare, and the truth of existence reveals itself not through words, but through the soul's deepest knowing. Every leaf on this tree is a life, and every branch is a thread of the soul's journey through time. Laila gazed at the tree, her heart swelling with wonder. So, every life I've lived, every experience I've had, they're all here? Yes, the woman replied, her voice as soft as the wind. But more than that, every choice you've made, every joy, every sorrow, every moment of love and fear, they all grow from the same source. Each life is connected to the others, woven into the tapestry of your soul. This garden is the reflection of that eternal dance. As Laila reached out to touch the tree, she felt a surge of energy pass through her, and in that moment, she understood. The past, the present, and the future, everything was one. The tree was a mirror of her soul's journey, and every leaf shimmered with the light of her many incarnations. She saw herself as she had been in countless lives, a warrior, a poet, a healer, a mother, a daughter, and even a teacher of the ancient mysteries. But it was not just her own lives that were reflected here. She could feel the lives of others, interconnected with hers, souls she had known, loved, and shared journeys with. The realization struck her with a depth she could hardly comprehend. She was not separate from the universe, from creation, or from the divine. She was a part of it all, and it was a part of her. "Do you see now?" the woman asked, her eyes filled with compassion. The soul is eternal, but it is also deeply connected to every other soul. We are not solitary beings. We are threads in the vast, intricate web of existence. Each of us contributes to the whole, and the whole nourishes each of us. Laila closed her eyes, letting the truth of these words wash over her. In the silence of the garden, she felt the unity of all things, the oneness that transcended time and space. She remembered the ancient words she had once read. Underscore in him we live and move and have our being. Underscore. Acts 17 verse 28. For the first time, those words resonated with a clarity she had never before experienced. The divine was not something distant or unattainable. It was the very essence of life, flowing through every leaf, every breath, every heartbeat. It was the river of time, the temple of silence, the dance of dualities. All of it was the divine, and she was a part of that sacred flow. But as she stood in the presence of this profound truth, a question rose in her heart. "What is the purpose of this journey?" she asked. "Why must we live so many lives, face so many challenges, if in the end we are all one?" The woman's smile deepened, and she placed a hand on Laila's shoulder. "The purpose, dear one, is growth. The soul evolves through experience, through love and loss, through joy and sorrow. Every life is a lesson, every challenge an opportunity to expand the heart. The universe itself is in a constant state of becoming, and so are you." She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. The divine is not static. It is dynamic, ever evolving, just as you are. And through your experiences, your choices, and your love, you contribute to the evolution of all that is. Laila's heart swelled with understanding. The journey of the soul was not a path to escape from the world or to transcend it, but to fully embrace it. Each life, each experience was an expression of the divine's desire to know itself, to grow, to love. As she gazed at the tree, she saw that the journey was not about reaching a final destination, but about the unfolding of the soul's potential, the blossoming of divine love in every moment. The tree, with its endless leaves and branches, was a living testament to the infinite possibilities of the soul's evolution. The woman took a step back, her figure beginning to fade into the light of the garden. "Your journey is not over, Laila," she said softly. "There is still much to discover, much to experience. But now you carry with you the wisdom of the eternal garden, the knowledge that you are never alone, never separate from the divine or from the souls you encounter along the way." As the woman disappeared, the garden around Laila shimmered with a soft, radiant glow. She stood beneath the tree, feeling the pulse of life coursing through her, through the earth, through the stars. She had glimpsed the truth of eternity, the sacred unity that bound all things together. With a deep breath, she turned away from the tree, ready to continue her journey. There would be challenges ahead, shadows to face, and new lessons to learn. But now, with the wisdom of the eternal garden in her heart, she knew she was part of something far greater than herself, an endless dance of creation, love, and becoming. And as she walked through the garden, the leaves of the tree rustled softly in the wind, whispering a truth that echoed through her soul. _4 from him, and through him, and to him are all things. To him be the glory forever. Amen. Romans 11 verse 36. The veil of shadows. Laila walked away from the eternal garden with a heart full of peace and understanding, but as she ventured deeper into the realms of the unknown, the light of the garden began to fade. The path before her became darker, cloaked in shadows that twisted and swirled around her. The air grew thick, and a cold silence settled over everything, far different from the sacred stillness of the Temple of Silence. She had entered a place where the light of truth dimmed, where illusions and fears took shape. The shadows here were not just external, they came from within, reflections of the hidden parts of herself she had yet to confront. "This is the realm of your unspoken fears," a voice whispered from the darkness. Laila spun around, her heart pounding, but saw no one. The voice continued, soft yet penetrating, like a wind that cut through her very soul. "Here, you must face the shadows you have long buried, the doubts, the fears, the regrets. They have always been with you, lurking in the corners of your heart, waiting for the moment when you are ready to see them." Laila swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the shadows pressing against her. She had come so far, learned so much, but this place felt different. It wasn't the peaceful wisdom of the temple or the cosmic flow of the river of time. This realm was darker, denser, and full of uncertainty. "Who speaks to me?" she asked, her voice trembling with both fear and curiosity. From the shadows emerged a figure, cloaked in darkness, yet its eyes glowed faintly with an inner light. It was neither frightening nor comforting, but something in between, a mirror of her own duality. The figure was her, yet not her. It was as if the shadow was a projection of everything she had refused to see. "I am the part of you that you have hidden," the figure said, its voice now clearer, more resonant. "The fears you were too afraid to confront, the doubts you silenced, the wounds you buried. I am everything you have denied, and yet I am as much a part of you as the light." Laila felt a chill run down her spine. "Why have you come to me now?" she asked. "Because you have reached a point in your journey where you can no longer move forward without embracing me," the figure said, stepping closer. "You have touched the wisdom of silence, tasted the eternal flow of time, and seen the interconnectedness of all things. But you cannot fully ascend until you face the shadows that remain within you. The light alone cannot guide you. The darkness has its own wisdom." Laila hesitated, feeling the tension between the part of her that wanted to flee and the part that knew this confrontation was inevitable. "What is there to learn from the shadows?" she asked, her voice small yet determined. The figure smiled, though there was no malice in it, only deep understanding. "There is no growth without pain, no transformation without challenge. You fear your shadows because they remind you of your fragility, your imperfections. But in truth, it is through the shadow that you come to know your strength. To deny the shadow is to deny your own wholeness." Laila thought of the ancient teachings she had encountered on her journey. The Sufi mystics had spoken of the necessity of confronting the nafs, the lower self, the ego, as part of the path toward union with the divine. The Buddha had taught that suffering is a part of life, and only by understanding it can one be liberated from it. Even the prophets had faced their darkest hours before their greatest revelations. "I have walked in the light, but I have always feared the dark," Laila admitted, her voice shaking. "I thought that by seeking the light, I could escape the pain, the doubts, the fear. But the light and the dark are one," the figure said gently. "You cannot escape the shadow, for it is a part of the light. The sun casts shadows, and so does the soul. To transcend fear is not to banish it, but to embrace it as part of your journey." Laila closed her eyes, feeling the weight of these truths. She had spent so much of her life running from her fears, afraid of failure, afraid of rejection, afraid of the unknown. She had sought refuge in knowledge, in wisdom, in the higher realms of spirit. But now she stood before the shadow of her own soul, and she knew she could not run any longer. "What must I do?" she asked quietly, her heart open to the challenge. The figure reached out, its hand hovering just above Laila's chest, where her heart beat fiercely. "Look within," it whispered. "Not with your eyes, but with your soul. See the darkness for what it truly is, a mirror of your deepest truths, the hidden aspects of yourself that long to be integrated, not denied." Laila took a deep breath, summoning all her courage. She let her awareness sink inward, descending into the depths of her being. As she did, the shadows around her thickened, swirling like a storm. But rather than fleeing, she embraced them. She opened her heart to the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty. She let herself feel the pain she had long ignored, the wounds she had tried to hide. And in that moment, something miraculous happened. The shadows, which had seemed so dark and menacing, began to shift. They were no longer frightening, they were simply there. They were part of her, just as the light was part of her. And as she accepted them, they transformed. The darkness did not disappear, but it softened, and in its place, she felt a profound sense of peace. The figure smiled once more, and this time its form began to merge with hers. "You have faced me, and in doing so, you have embraced yourself. The journey of the soul is not to ascend away from the shadow, but to integrate it, to find the balance between light and dark, fear and love. Laila opened her eyes, and the figure was gone. But she knew it had not truly left. It had become a part of her, as it had always been. The shadows no longer haunted her, for she had learned their wisdom. She understood now that the journey of the soul was not a flight from darkness, but a dance with it. And as she stood in the stillness of the shadowed realm, Laila felt a deep, abiding wholeness and inner unity that transcended both light and dark. She had walked through the fire of her fears and emerged stronger, more complete. She took a deep breath and began to walk forward once again, her steps steady and sure. The path ahead was still unknown, but she no longer feared it. She knew now that the answers she sought were not in escaping the darkness, but in embracing it, in finding harmony within the dance of duality. And as she walked, the shadows around her whispered their final lesson. Underscore, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. Underscore. Psalm 139, verse 12. Laila smiled softly, her heart filled with peace. She had come to understand that the light and the shadow were not enemies, but companions on the journey. Together, they formed the path of the soul, a path that led ever deeper into the mystery of being and ever closer to the heart of the divine. Her journey was far from over, but for the first time, she knew she was truly ready to walk it, whole, integrated, and free. The threshold of unity. Laila moved forward with a quiet sense of certainty. The shadows and light within her now intertwined like threads in a great cosmic tapestry. The realms she had traversed, from the stillness of the Temple of Silence to the swirling depths of her own fears, had revealed to her truths that no words could fully capture. Yet, something deeper still beckoned. There was one more threshold to cross, one more mystery to unravel. As she walked, the landscape around her began to change once more. The path beneath her feet dissolved, and she found herself standing on the edge of a vast horizon where the sky and the earth seemed to meet in a seamless embrace. It was as if she had arrived at the very boundary of existence, a place where the physical world faded into pure spirit. In the distance, she saw a figure radiant yet indistinct, as though it were made of the same substance as the light around it. This being was different from the others she had encountered on her journey. It did not speak with words, nor did it carry the weight of duality. It was neither shadow nor light, neither male nor female, but something beyond all categories, a presence that transcended form and definition. Laila approached slowly, her heart trembling with awe. As she drew closer, the figure raised its hand in a gesture of welcome, and in that moment, she understood this was the threshold of unity. Here, the opposites she had once thought to be irreconcilable, life and death, time and eternity, self and other, would dissolve into oneness. The figure's presence filled her mind, not with words, but with a deep, resonant knowing. She did not need to ask questions, for the answers were already unfolding within her. Here, at the boundary of all that is and all that ever could be, she would face the ultimate truth, the truth that had been whispered to her throughout her journey. The figure finally spoke, but not in the way that voices speak. It was a transmission of understanding, a silent communion with her soul. Underscore, you stand at the threshold of oneness, Laila. All you have experienced, all you have learned, has prepared you for this moment. But to step beyond, you must let go of the final veil, the veil of separation. Underscore. Laila's breath caught in her throat. The veil of separation? She asked, her voice barely audible. But isn't that what I've been uncovering all along? The unity beneath the dualities? The light and shadow, the time and timelessness, the self and the soul? The figure's light shimmered softly, as if in agreement. Underscore, yes, you have journeyed far. You have integrated the opposites, embraced your shadow, and discovered the divine presence within you. But there is still one last veil to lift, the veil of individuality itself. Underscore. Laila's heart quickened. The idea of dissolving the self, of stepping beyond the boundaries of her own being, filled her with both wonder and trepidation. But who am I if I am not me? What remains when the self dissolves? The figure's light intensified, and Laila could feel the truth of its message coursing through her. Underscore, you are not separate from the whole. You never have been. The self you cling to is but a wave in the ocean of existence. To cross this threshold, you must become the ocean itself, lose yourself in the vastness, and in doing so, find yourself anew. Underscore. Her mind raced with the implications of this. All her life, she had sought to know herself, to understand her place in the world. But now, standing at the edge of eternity, she realized that the self she had sought to know was only a temporary form, a fleeting expression of something far greater. The soul was not a singular entity, it was an ever-changing reflection of the infinite. Underscore, but how do I let go of the self? Underscore, Laila asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Underscore, how do I become the ocean when I have spent so long learning to navigate the wave? Underscore. The figure's presence enveloped her in a warmth that transcended words. Underscore, you do not need to let go, for the ocean is already within you. It is not a matter of becoming something else, but of remembering what you already are. The veil of separation is an illusion. When you realize this, the boundaries between you and the universe will dissolve, and you will experience the unity that underlies all creation. Underscore. Laila closed her eyes, her heart pounding. She felt the tension within her, the last remnants of her attachment to the idea of self, of I, of mine. She had spent so long defining herself, shaping her identity through experiences, knowledge, and growth. But now, in the face of this infinite horizon, she knew that to cross the threshold, she had to surrender all of it. She took a deep breath, and in that breath, she felt the universe breathe with her. The figure stood silent before her, radiating a love so pure that it transcended any notion of individuality. It was not love for another, but love as the essence of being itself. Underscore, you are ready. Underscore, the figure whispered into her soul. Underscore, step beyond the veil and become what you have always been, a drop in the ocean of existence, inseparable from the whole. Underscore. Tears filled Laila's eyes as she understood. There was no loss here, no obliteration of the self, only a return. A return to the source, to the infinite love that had given birth to her soul and to every soul that had ever existed. She was not being asked to abandon herself, but to expand beyond the limitations of the self, to merge with the cosmic dance of creation. With a heart full of both fear and joy, Laila stepped forward. As she did, the figure before her dissolved into pure light, and that light flowed into her, filling every corner of her being. The boundaries of her body, her mind, her soul, all of it began to blur. She could feel herself expanding, merging with the stars, with the earth, with every particle of existence. And then, as if a great curtain had been lifted, she crossed the threshold. There was no more Laila, no more separation between self and other, between subject and object. She was the stars, the rivers, the mountains, the wind. She was the breath of the universe, the heartbeat of creation. Every atom of existence pulsed within her, and she within them. She had become the ocean, vast and eternal, and yet she had not lost herself. She had simply become what she had always been, an inseparable part of the whole. And in that moment, she understood the final truth. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Revelation 22 verse 13. There was no end to the journey, no final destination. The soul was eternal, flowing through endless cycles of creation and dissolution, birth and rebirth. The unity she had sought was not a place, but a state of being, a state she had now touched and would continue to touch for all eternity. As the light of this revelation filled her, Laila opened her eyes. She was standing at the threshold, but she had crossed it. She was no longer separate from the cosmos, she was the cosmos, and the cosmos was her. Her journey, she realized, was far from over. But now, she walked it with the knowledge that she was never alone, never separate. She had become one with the eternal dance of existence, and that dance would carry her forward into the infinite, ever-expanding realms of being. The story of her soul had only just begun. The fire of souls. The world around Laila had become an endless void of darkness, so deep and impenetrable that even the stars seemed distant and unreachable. She walked slowly, her steps heavy, as though time itself had slowed to a crawl. The silence was suffocating, the kind that fills the air when something profound is about to happen. Each step echoed faintly in the pitch-black world, and Laila could feel an ominous presence all around her. Her heart began to beat faster, but she wasn't sure why. There was no danger here, only an oppressive stillness. Yet something deep within her whispered that this was not a place to hurry through. This was a realm of reckoning. As Laila moved forward, the silence was shattered by a distant sound, faint at first, but unmistakable. It was the echo of screaming, a voice writhing in pain, followed by the sound of sobbing. The cries seemed to come from all directions, filling the air with a sorrow so profound that it pierced Laila's soul. She stopped, her breath catching in her throat. The cries grew louder, more frantic, and she could feel the agony of the voice as if it were her own. Driven by an instinct she couldn't explain, Laila began searching for the source of the torment. Her footsteps quickened, each step heavy with urgency. The cries of anguish and desperation filled her ears, growing louder with each moment. Then, in the distance, she saw it, a flickering light, wild and uncontrolled. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest. The flickering light grew brighter as she neared, and soon she realized it wasn't a light at all, it was a fire. A great flame, rising high into the blackness, twisting and turning like a living thing. And within the fire, a person writhed in agony, his body engulfed by the flames, twisting and turning in an attempt to escape the inferno. Laila's breath caught in her throat. "No," she screamed, her voice trembling with fear. Without thinking, she rushed forward, her only thought to save the person from the torment they were trapped in. But with every step she took, the fire seemed to pull the figure further away, just out of reach. No matter how hard she tried, no matter how fast she ran, she couldn't get close enough. "Stop!" she called out, her voice cracking with desperation. "I'm trying to help you." The figure continued to writhe in the flames, the cries of pain echoing louder. Laila could see the person's hands reaching out, pleading for salvation, but the fire raged on, consuming everything in its path. She fell to her knees, gasping for breath, tears streaming down her face. The feeling of helplessness consumed her. Suddenly, a presence appeared beside her, a familiar figure, glowing with the same ethereal light she had seen in the mirror realm. The guardian who had guided her through the early stages of her journey now stood before her, his eyes shimmering like galaxies, his expression calm but serious. "You cannot save him here," the guardian said softly, his voice echoing through the dark void. "This fire is not of this world. It is a reflection of the torment he endures in the real world, the world you left behind." Laila looked up at the guardian, her heart aching. "But I need to help him," she whispered, her voice breaking. "How can I reach him? He's suffering. I can't just leave him." The guardian knelt beside her, his gaze full of compassion. "This soul is trapped in a pain that cannot be healed here. If you are ready to help him, you must return to the world of flesh and blood, where the true source of his suffering lies. In the real world, you will find him. He is calling out to you, though he doesn't know it." Laila's mind raced with questions, but she trusted the guardian's wisdom. "How do I find him?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The guardian placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke with the same calm authority he had before. "Go to the library. In the northern corner, on the 4th shelf, you will find a book. The 3rd book. Open it to page 35. There you will find what you seek, an address that will lead you to him." Before Laila could respond, the darkness around her began to dissolve, the fire fading into nothingness. She felt herself being pulled back, away from the black void, away from the cries of the tortured soul. The last thing she saw was the guardian's calm, knowing gaze, and then silence. Laila awoke with a start, her heart pounding in her chest, her body drenched in sweat. She was back in her bed, the moonlight filtering through the curtains. But the memory of the dark realm, the fire, and the guardian's words were as vivid as ever. She didn't hesitate. Throwing on her clothes, she rushed out of the house, her mind focused on one thing, the library. The streets were empty as she made her way to the old library, her breath ragged with urgency. She could feel the pull of destiny, the weight of her journey pushing her forward. She reached the library's doors and slipped inside, the familiar scent of old books calming her nerves only slightly. Without a second thought, Laila made her way to the northern corner, just as the guardian had instructed. The shelves loomed before her, filled with ancient tomes and forgotten knowledge. She counted the shelves until she reached the 4th one and scanned the rows of books, her heart pounding. The third book caught her eye, an old, leather-bound volume titled Travel Through Time. Her hands trembled as she pulled it from the shelf and flipped through its yellowed pages. Page 35. She found it. Tucked between the pages was a small, worn piece of paper. On it, in faded ink, was an address. Her heart raced as she memorized the address, knowing it would lead her to the man from the world of torment. She closed the book and rushed out of the library, her feet carrying her to the address as if guided by an unseen force. When she arrived, she found the door slightly ajar. A wave of dread washed over her, but she pushed it aside. She stepped inside the darkened apartment, the smell of blood thick in the air. Her heart sank as she saw him, the man from the flames, lying on the ground, his left hand severed, blood pooling around him. "No," she cried, rushing to his side. She fumbled for her phone, calling an ambulance as she pressed her hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Time seemed to blur as the paramedics arrived, taking him away. Laila followed closely, her heart heavy with the weight of everything she had seen, everything she had done. She stayed by his side as he was saved, his life hanging in the balance. And when he finally opened his eyes, she saw it, the spark of recognition, the unspoken connection that bound their souls. He looked at her, his voice weak but steady. "You saved me." Laila's heart swelled with emotion, but as she gazed into his eyes, a memory flashed in her mind, the book. Travel Through Time. The title echoed in her thoughts, and she realized that their meeting was not an accident. It was written in the very fabric of time, their fates intertwined across realms, across dimensions. She had crossed worlds to save him, and now, in the light of the real world, she understood the deeper truth. Time was not a linear thread, but a web that connected all things. And in the center of that web was love, a love that transcended time, space, and even the boundaries of life and death. As Laila held his hand, she knew that her journey was far from over. But for the first time, she felt the fullness of her purpose. This was not just about saving a life, it was about understanding the deeper rhythms of the universe, the threads that connected souls across time. And as the dawn broke through the hospital window, casting light on the new chapter of her life, Laila whispered to herself, "Time is not a river, it is a mirror. And in that mirror, we find the truth of who we are." The journey of her soul had led her here, but it had also opened the door to a love that would carry her forward into the unknown, where time and eternity danced in unison. The paradox of love and time. Days passed since Laila had saved him. Each day, she visited him in the hospital, watching him recover, seeing the strength return to his body, and noticing the gratitude in his eyes every time they met. She couldn't deny the connection that had blossomed between them, a connection that seemed written in the stars long before they ever met. His name was Aiden, and from the moment she saw him lying there, vulnerable, on the edge of life and death, she knew that her journey across worlds had led her to him. Every step, every mystical encounter, every test of her soul had brought her here. The guardian had shown her the path, and now, as she sat beside Aiden's bed, she felt the weight of destiny pressing down on her. But with that sense of destiny came a growing question, a question that gnawed at her heart and soul. It was the title of the book she found in the library, the book that led her to Aiden's address, Travel Through Time. The words echoed in her mind like a haunting whisper, reminding her that time was not fixed. It was a river, flowing and twisting, and perhaps, just perhaps, she could travel through it again. Aiden's recovery was slow but steady, and with every day that passed, their bond deepened. He looked at her with a love that felt eternal, as though he had known her not just in this life, but across many lifetimes. And she felt it too, a love that transcended time, that had been written in the stars long before they met. He was, in every sense, the embodiment of the love she had been searching for in her journey across the astral realms. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Aiden reached for her hand, his voice soft but filled with emotion. "You saved me, Laila. I don't know why or how, but I feel like I was meant to meet you. Like my life had to fall apart just so I could find you." Layla's heart ached at his words, but not with the sweetness of love alone. There was something deeper, something heavier that lingered beneath the surface. She squeezed his hand and smiled, but inside, the question of destiny burned brighter. Could she allow herself to live this love, knowing that Aiden's pain, his torment, his near suicide was part of the path that brought them together? Could she be selfish enough to live this life with him, knowing that, had she not intervened, he might not be here at all? Or was there another path, a path where she could travel through time, change his past, and save him from the suffering that had led him to such a dark place? If she chose to travel back, she would change everything. She would erase the moment of their meeting, the very moment that had bound their souls together. She would save Aiden from his despair, but in doing so, she would lose him forever. The thought of that loss sent a deep ache through her chest, but the thought of him living in pain, of suffering without her intervention, felt unbearable too. Laila stared at the horizon, her mind racing with the paradox of love and time. Love, she thought, is it meant to be lived fully, even if born from pain, or is it meant to be sacrificed for the greater good? She remembered the teachings she had encountered in the astral realms, the words of the sages, the voices of the divine, and even the silence of the temple. Everything pointed to the unity of love, the interconnectedness of all things. But now, faced with this choice, she realized that love also required sacrifice. What should I do? She whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. Her thoughts drifted back to the book in the library, traveled through time. It wasn't just a random book. It had been placed in her path for a reason. Perhaps it was a sign, a way to rewrite fate. If she found her way back through time, could she alter Aiden's destiny, free him from the pain that led him to his darkest moment? But in doing so, would she erase their love? Would she undo the very fabric of their connection? Aiden turned to her, his eyes filled with love and trust. "What are you thinking?" he asked gently, his hand still holding hers. She smiled at him, her heart torn between two worlds. "I'm thinking about time," she said softly, "and destiny. How we ended up here together." He squeezed her hand. "Maybe it was meant to be. Maybe everything that happened so I could find you." Laila nodded, but inside, the conflict raged. What if everything didn't have to happen this way? What if his suffering wasn't necessary? What if she could give him a life without the scars of torment, without the fire she saw him writhing in? The choice before her was agonizing: live in the present with the love they had found, or travel back through time, change his past, and sacrifice their future together for the chance to save him from ever having suffered at all. As the evening sky darkened, the weight of the decision pressed on her. Aidan leaned closer, resting his head on her shoulder, and she could feel his warmth, his heartbeat. She could live this love that had been born through the crucible of pain, or she could undo it all for his sake. What would you do? She wondered, the question not directed at herself, but at you, the listener, the reader, the witness to her journey. Would you stay, live the love that feels destined, knowing it was born from suffering? Or would you travel through time, rewrite his fate, and lose him forever? The decision loomed before her, vast and inescapable. What would Laila choose? The answer lingered on the edge of her soul, a question she would soon face, a question that held the key to her future in his. And as the night descended, the universe whispered its eternal truth: in time, all things are possible. But what will you sacrifice to change destiny? The end, for now. What would you do in Laila's place?